New props, finally. So I'm going to do a real quick breakdown of the characteristics of each prop, how they are to tune, how they are to fly, and which one I like the most. So previously, I tried to move to the Doll 5x45 V2, the heavy blade one, and I wanted to make that my main blade because the 5x4x3 blade is just too slow, and I would really like to move a little bit quicker. Unfortunately, that blade is pretty much impossible to tune, so I can't use it. So I moved back to the 5x4x3 for a while. The newest and most innovative prop here is actually the Racecraft. It's not the newest. The Cyclone came out after the Racecraft, but I think it is by far the most innovative prop, and I really like this prop mainly because of the way it looks. This prop looks freaking awesome, and I think everybody would agree by that. So this prop is a very interesting prop. It is definitely the fastest prop in existence. No questions asked. It was faster than the 5x45 twin blade. It is faster than anything else, but it does require a lot of amps. People think it's inefficient because it requires a lot of amps to actually work, but in reality, it's actually very efficient because it's making so much more power with those amps that it's crazy. So yeah, this is actually a very efficient prop, but it is a very big amp hog if you run it on a high kV motor, which is what a lot of people are doing. Anyways, I'm going to take a stab at how I think this prop works and why it's actually so nice, and the features about it that I like, and the characteristics that I like and don't like. So if you look at this prop, first and foremost, the blade is very, very tapered. And let's go over the flex profile. So the HQ 5x45 is, this is the Racecraft. So you can see here the flex profile is like a nice smooth curve. The way the HQ is a little bit different, and the HQ 5x45 is definitely still the best one. It's stiff for the first 2/3 of the blade, and then the tip of the blade is flexible. So it'll be stiff here, it'll flex more like that. If you look at the flex profile of this prop, it's similar. And it's also much stiffer than anything else, but I'm sure it still flexes in the air a little bit. And the flex profile is very similar to the HQ blade in that it's only the winglets that kind of flex up and the rest stays super stiff. So I don't know if that helps or it doesn't, but I feel like it gives it a little bit of a softness effect when you kind of like blast into corners. Anyways, so if you first look at this blade, you see the blade is actually very, very tapered, and that's for a very important reason. The biggest problem that we have with our modern motors is that they're actually too powerful. I say that because when you're trying to do smooth moves and get predictability out of the thing, you touch the throttle and the thing goes flying in some random direction. So what they did here was they made the blade very, very tapered, and what that does is it makes the throttle onset really, really soft. If you punch it, you're going to get a lot of punch, but if you just kind of like waver the throttle, you get a really nice soft throttle response down low, and that's really good because when you're doing like acro moves in the middle of the air, you really need to have that fine control. What happens when this blade starts spinning up faster and faster is that the winglets, these ends of the blades, are really thin and have really good aerodynamics, so they don't actually cause a lot of drag. And what happens is the center of the blade actually starts taking over. And if you look at the blade from this angle, you can see that right here is where the massive scoop is. And that massive scoop is what makes it go so fast. And you really need the blade to not cause a lot of drag so the thing can spin faster. And that's exactly what it does. So this thing feels a lot like a 4-inch in terms of the speed that it produces, just because the winglets are so thin that they cause very little drag and let the center hub spin faster and faster. What I don't like about this blade is that it's unpredictable. It takes some real skill to be able to fly this blade. It's a racing blade for sure. I mean, I don't fly every day. I don't fly that often. I mean, I try to fly as much as I can, but I can't. So I don't really have the time to learn how to use this blade. I mean, I did fly it for a couple of packs and I got used to it, but it's still a little bit weird. When you get to a certain throttle range, it just kind of takes off on you. It's like a jolt, like it's a turbo booster. So that's about that prop. It's a great blade. It requires a very significant battery to use, and you should mind your amps and you should know what you're doing when you're using this prop. It is a fantastic prop and it looks beautiful. The next prop is the HQ prop. This is the new S-Blade prop. It's super flexible, and when you fly it, it feels like a freaking trampoline because your quad is like bouncing when you give it gas. It's indestructible. Oh, also, this blade doesn't break. So the winglets will break, and that causes some minor issues, but for the most part, you don't break this blade. If it does bend, you can actually bend this back. So it's excellent in terms of performance, of reliability, and durability. This blade is similar in the sense that it doesn't really, I mean, look how flexible it is, and it'll just pop right back. So this is great in that you can always bend it back, and it'll keep working for you if you need it to. You're going to replace these blades well before they actually break. Anyways, so what HQ did here was that they tried to improve on their 5x4, and they put this little winglet on the end of it to try to improve the efficiency at the wingtips. And I don't know if it actually improves it or not, but what this blade is good at is actually working. What happens with the 5x4 blade is that on these high-powered motors, when it gets the higher throttle range, it actually starts thinning out, and you hear that in the blade. I don't know if it's thinning out or what, but you hear how this blade is inefficient. You hear it whining and trying to like get up to speed, or not get up to speed, trying to produce some thrust, but in reality, it's just making a whole lot of noise, so it's inefficient. So this blade is a lot more efficient in the sense that it actually produces thrust when you're at the high throttle ranges. The problem is that the blades are really heavy and they're really thick, and it's a 4-pitch, and not like the pitch really makes a big difference, but this thing is not like it makes a huge difference, but it's not a fast blade. You're not going to be breaking any speed records with this blade. And it's a pretty heavy blade, so it's a little bit difficult to tune, similar to the 5x4 heavy hybrid bullnose heavy blade. I don't really like this prop very much. I'm going to have to say good try for HQ, but I don't think anybody's really going to be using this much. It's a smooth blade. It's really nice to fly, but if I was to choose between this and the 5x4 I would still go with this blade. So then we come to the Cyclone blade. This blade is beautiful, and it's beautiful not because it looks nice, because it flies amazing. The first time I put this blade on my quad and I flew around, I was doing things that I could never do before because I had the confidence to fly the damn thing because the blade has just performed so well. I don't really know what about this blade works well. My best guess would be similar to the Racecraft, the new Racecraft blade, in that the end of the blade is thinner, so it causes less drag, and the blade is quieter, so you can tell that it's much more efficient. And then it has a pretty big scoop in the center, and that's where it's getting the meat, where it's doing its work. But it's not so drastic like the Racecraft prop, so you don't get that turbo boost effect when you get to a certain RPM range. The flex profile of this is, again, very similar to the HQ. I don't know if that matters at all, but something to be noted that blades that seem to fly well have somewhat of a similar flex profile. So the center two-thirds of the blade is very stiff, and then the last third is pretty flexible. So this blade, this is faster than the 5x4 definitely, hands down, no problem. It is definitely not as fast as the HQ blade, as the Racecraft blade, but I don't think it's that far behind. I think it's very close to the 5x4 heavy bullnose blade that Dahl made very popular. I love this prop because it is so smooth and it is so responsive, and it feels like just the response time, the transition time of the motor is just way faster with this blade. I don't know why it is. I don't know if it actually is even, but it just feels so responsive and just finely tuned in the air that I've 100% switched to this blade, and this is what I'm going to be running on pretty much all my quads. And the thing is that it's very reliable too, so I don't have to learn how to fly it again. It just works right out of the box, and it's really good for high kV motors actually because it's very efficient. So this blade has similar efficiency to the HQ blade, and that's great because the HQ blade is commonly the blade that's run on 2600 kV or higher, and this blade is also going to be very good on 2400 to 2700 kV. Very good, very efficient, and it will not totally destroy your batteries, which is a great thing. A couple of other tips that I have for you is that, so Israel took all my batteries, and I only have 4 graphene batteries left. And this one Nanotech 1800 4S from ages ago. This battery is about a year old. I think it's a solid year old, and I've repaired it a couple of times. You can see there. So I've just been trying this pack on these new motors because they're higher power motors and they want more amps. And believe it or not, the Nanotech 1800 4S 65C pack puts out more amps than the graphene 1300 4S 65C. I was dumbfounded when I saw that, and I thought, like, since I started using the graphenes, that was it. We had to use graphene from now on just to be able to have the power to be able to move. But now I've realized that, well, I don't even know. The graphenes might not actually be any different. They might just be good quality cells or something. And a regular cell is not that bad. So the 1800s are pretty good. And from here on out, I'm only going to be buying 1550s at a minimum and 1600s. as you get better, you just fly faster and faster. I've also been testing the extra long version of the Hyperlight frame. This is how Sean Taylor configures his frame, and this is where I got the idea from, straight from him. And I gotta say, it's actually better. I haven't tested the frame this long. This is a full 5 millimeters longer than any of the configurations that I tested, and I kind of landed on the original configuration that I did because I didn't feel like it was any different as you got longer. But I didn't really stretch it all the way out, and you can see how far those blade tips are. I mean, this could probably fit 7-inch blades if the width was wide enough. I'm shocked. I'm dumbfounded to be so wrong about it, and that is definitely going to be the next configuration of the Hyperlight.